Okay. I think we're good. Um, so complex scenarios expected to set up over Tuesday night into Wednesday. This is gonna be. We'll see if this but there's quite a ton of uncertainty really with it, and honestly, sort of the thumbnail probably didn't encompass really all the potential tracks, but it is what it is. But um, this is sort of all begins off Tuesday night. We have a slight risk over portions of Nebraska into Iowa. That's probably going to continue to really, probably going to be originally tracking southeast and then tracking off, eventually turning east, maybe with time. But day four, nothing too much really right now. Nothing, but there's going to be probably a pretty broad slight over much of the Corn Belt into the High Plains. And it's going to be a broad area where storms are going to be possible. So really, to really understand what's going on, we're just going to take a look at what's going on right now. We have a pretty deep upper level low sitting over Canada right now. Probably see some pretty vigorous short wave associated with it. And we have that's sort of what's sitting down a cold front. And you can probably see on the surface maps even. Well, now I can go on this one. And you can probably see a little bit of a cold front that's setting up pretty weak one further off to the. That's sort of beginning to impinge really on the Dakotas, really. And, in the meantime, this is sort of what we're doing. And we have pretty broad enhanced flow across much of the central plains going into the southeast. Pretty ridging out west. We have a tiny bit of a little bit of a mid to upper level anticyclone located over the southwest, it looks like, actually. So that's kind of cool. And let's go over this or into northern Mexico, but there's quite a lot going on really with the upper air pattern. And that cold. And we also probably see that's a pretty vigorous speed max on the backside. That's gonna really begin to propel really that cold front surge down south. You could probably see it on the map. Yeah, we see that cold front pretty much set up right there, right around. It's gonna pinch on the Dakotas tonight, and that's gonna just dive south really. And by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, pretty much gonna be pretty much set up right there. It looks like the map is probably a little fast with this, but I think 18Z NAM came through actually pretty recently. I just took a little bit of a light glance of it. We'll take a look more of a glance, more in depth look, but we'll take a look at how it evolved 500 millibars. Okay, that short wave, that's a very strong short wave ejecting right into the upper Midwest. Sweeping cold front comes in. You'll probably see it the surface pattern. That just dives south because of a very potent short wave. And that sets up really, we have a little bit of a weak trough that's pretty much riding over the ridge, hands flow, and that flow really amplifies as it goes over the northern plains. And then we get pretty much just wave after wave. All begins Wednesday night, then minute wave dives in, and then we have another wave actually right over the Dakotas and Nebraska. That could be another really morning MCS event, really. We'll have to see about that, but okay, we have a really potent wave that really dives in throughout the morning into the afternoon. This is a pretty plausible solution, I'd say. Really, we can get really a mid morning MCS that's could potentially be long lived. We'll see how it evolves the surface. The surface pattern we have pretty much that boundary just set up right there, pretty much right over Iowa, Iowa-Missouri border stretching into central Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska border, and then, oh dang, yeah, and you can see that potent MCS really Lambda stimulating, and that's just gonna dive southeast really, maybe more easterly, have maybe a more easterly component, but that is quite. That's definitely a set. That's a pretty obvious setup, really. That we're gonna see some sort of MCS, really. We're gonna have a pretty robust EML, pretty much eject right into the Midwest, and that's gonna set up as well for combined with this probably strong low moisture. Well, that's gonna be honestly the names values are gonna be probably in the mid 70s, low mid 70s. Yeah, low mid. You can see that moisture pooling right along that boundary. But those are pretty realistic values, I'd say. Maybe it could be even higher than that. We'll have to sort of see what really. I think the evolution really of how which MC. Looking at 8 SRF. Let's take a look at 500 millibar. We'll we'll go take a look at 500 millibar winds there. And we have that shortwave continues to just dive south. And then we have a pretty robust wave coming in. You can probably see it on pivotal, really. Go on pivotal. But this is. We'll keep it on CONUS just because. Okay. What was 70. And that's a pretty robust wave coming in at 21Z. I think pretty obvious expectations if the morning MCS does not really evolve really into something really potent, which I don't know really too much. If it doesn't turn like that, I think the evening we have that strong wave coming into Iowa, into Illinois. We're gonna see some pretty robust supercells develop midday, past midday. Probably gonna be after between 18Z after there, and then those are gonna pretty much pretty quickly become become cold pool dominant, and they're gonna pretty much merge into an MCS that appears to be pretty likely, really, given this situation with the boundary orientation and shear vectors. So we'll sort of have to see where this all sets up, though. That's probably the main uncertainty, really. We have that bound. SRF has a pretty easy bullseye, really, where it's going to be possible. Southern Illinois, northwestern Illinois, and probably west central Illinois, too, if we go to. Let's get to 0Z, yeah. That's a pretty easy bullseye. Where really we could see that maximum severe threat if convection really evolves. And we'll go see. We have a pretty broad signature, really. We can see some convection ranging across from Nebraska, maybe northwestern Kansas, and that could really push east into west central Illinois into the evening. There's a ton of really scenarios that could really happen. This is a little bit all over the place, which true. But I think that's sort of. We'll take a look at some of the globals. We'll see what they. Even though I don't think they're gonna have too good of a handle, we'll go look at Euro real quick. We'll take a look at Euro at 500 millibars. Euro has a pretty strong wave ejecting pretty early on today, 18Z. So we'll have to see where this really tracks. And then that DE boundary, that boundary setting up, it's quite a bit different actually compared to, it's quite interesting how how we sort of see that evolve. Yeah, that's very interesting. By 0Z, yeah, that's so. There's probably we'll see what the GFS shows. Oh, it looks like it's we'll go to 0Z. It looks like it's gonna probably ride the what was it? Go look at surface temperatures. Yeah, it sort of rides the main effective boundary, I guess. Right, further to the south because it sort of you have the boundary setting up pretty much just south of the Iowa-Missouri border. Pretty strong mixing occurring. That's pretty much just some deep moisture into along the Mississippi River. And that sort of just dives off to the southeast. So that's another really scenario that could happen. We'll go take a look at the take a look at ensembles. Well, we can see really where the core or GFS yeah, not too much GFS definitely favors further south, but taking a look at SREF, what does it do? I'm sort of wait. I'm probably gonna wait the SREF a little bit more over the GFS at this moment. GFS SREF is sort of all over the place though, so who I don't really know could. There's quite a little bit of a signal over Missouri, but it's a little bit. It's really broad, really what could happen. That's sort of the main issue. Really, just a ton of scenarios I could, and that's sort of why I'm expecting a really broad slide other than some higher probabilities. And that's why there's definitely gonna be some issues really and it's gonna take a minute to really iron out the details. It's gonna be until the night before really when we can get a little bit of a better view of what could happen. But for now, sort of dealing with a complex really situation unfolding. So apart from that, that's it. And farewell.